This is the story of what happens the day NATO stops defending and starts attacking. For 75 years, NATO has existed for one reason: to defend, not to expand, not to conquer, not to strike first. Its power has never come from aggression. It has come from restraint, from the belief that some lines are never crossed, until pressure builds, until deterrence feels like delay, until defending starts to feel like losing control. Right now, that pressure is real. Across Europe, across the Arctic, across the world's most fragile borders. Military spending is rising. Exercises are growing larger. Language is becoming sharper. And something subtle is happening behind closed doors. The conversation is shifting from how do we respond to how do we prevent? Because prevention in modern warfare doesn't always mean diplomacy. Sometimes it means positioning. Sometimes it means denial. And sometimes it means striking first to avoid being struck later. One place sits at the center of this quiet shift. Cold, remote, vast, Greenland. On maps, Greenland looks empty. In strategy rooms, it looks indispensable. It sits on the shortest path between Russia and the American East Coast. Every intercontinental missile, every early warning calculation, every Arctic patrol route. It is not just land, it is time. Minutes of warning, minutes of survival. For years, this reality stayed unspoken. Until it didn't. When the idea was floated that Greenland should be owned, not protected, European capitals didn't laugh. They listened. Because ownership changes responsibility, and responsibility changes behavior. Behind the scenes, European militaries began planning differently. Not for cooperation, but for denial. How to make certain territories too costly to take? How to slow a superior force long enough to force negotiations? Not through conquest, but through resistance. This is where NATO's identity begins to fracture. Because defending allies is one thing, but denying access even to a former partner is something else entirely. And once that logic is accepted in the Arctic, it doesn't stay there. It spreads to the Atlantic, to Eastern Europe, to the Indo-Pacific. Because if alliances can shift here, they can shift anywhere. This is not the beginning of a war. This is something more dangerous. This is the moment the world realizes the rules might change, before anyone agrees on what the new ones are. Greenland looks like ice, empty, forgotten. But in modern warfare, it is one of the most dangerous pieces of land on Earth. Because if missiles ever fly between superpowers, they will pass right over it. This is why Donald Trump didn't joke when he said the United States should own Greenland. Not buy, not negotiate, own. To Washington, Greenland is not Danish territory. It is a missile shield, an early warning system, a choke point against Russia and China. And Europe knows it. That is why Britain, Germany, and 7 European nations quietly signed a statement saying one thing very clearly: Greenland is not for sale. And if anyone tries to take it, Denmark will not wait for permission. Under a little-known 1952 rule, Danish soldiers are ordered to shoot first, even if war has not been declared. That single rule changes everything, because now a misunderstanding, a landing, or a security operation could trigger a war NATO never planned to fight. Denmark knows it cannot fight the United States alone, so it does something unexpected. It doesn't ask NATO for help. It builds a wall without building one. Sweden, Norway, Finland. A silent Nordic coalition forms overnight. Not to conquer, but to deny. To make invasion so slow, so painful, so expensive, that Washington is forced to negotiate instead of advance. Swedish surveillance aircraft begin tracking American movements. Norwegian naval patrols tighten the Arctic choke points. Finnish air defense systems light up radar screens across the north. No shots fired. Yet the message is unmistakable. This is not just Denmark anymore. And this is where NATO begins to crack. Because some members see deterrence, others see provocation, and the United States sees betrayal. The alliance that once defended the West is now facing its most dangerous question yet. What happens when NATO's biggest power stops following NATO rules? While Europe is distracted, Beijing starts watching the clock. Taiwan has always been the prize. Not just territory, power, technology, control of the world's most advanced chips. For years, China prepared quietly, but now the signals are louder. Chinese fighter jets cross Taiwan's air defense zone again and again and again. Each flight is a message. Time is running out. Taiwan knows this. That's why it abandons traditional warfare and turns itself into something else entirely. A porcupine. Not strong enough to dominate, but painful enough to swallow. Smart sea mines turn the Taiwan Strait into a floating death trap. AI-driven air defense systems calculate threats in seconds, not minutes. Missiles costing millions are designed to sink ships worth billions. This isn't about winning, it's about making invasion unthinkable. Because intelligence agencies agree on one date, 2027, the year China wants to be ready. And if the United States is tied down in Europe, Taiwan may be standing alone. Wars don't always begin with bombs. Sometimes they begin with bank accounts freezing. Sanctions are sold as peaceful tools, but history shows something darker. Sanctions don't stop wars. They prepare them. When Russia was cut off from the global financial system, it didn't collapse. It adapted. It learned how to survive without the dollar. And China was watching. Today, Beijing is building a financial world that doesn't need Washington. Oil trades in yuan. Gold stockpiles grow quietly. Digital currencies bypass traditional banking. This isn't economic independence. It's preparation. Because if war comes, the first missiles won't hit cities. They'll hit markets. Stock exchanges will freeze. Shipping insurance will vanish overnight. Global supply chains, built over decades, will snap in days. Supermarket shelves won't empty from panic. They'll empty from logistics. And while politicians argue over blame, a new reality sets in. NATO isn't just a military alliance anymore. It's a trigger. Pull it once, and the world doesn't reset. It fractures. This isn't about defending borders. It's about defending a system. And once that system breaks, there is no ceasefire, only consequences.